grade 2 pull on my hamstring, and from there everything went to hell. Basically, I was walking 3.5 miles a day. I went from that to walking less and less, and because it was so painful, and my other knee started hurting me. And then I stepped off a ladder and jammed my knee. It took me the next morning 5 minutes by the time I stood up to get out of my bedroom. It was so painful. At the same time, I found out about the TRT from the doc, and I knew that that was for me. So almost feeling completely normal. So it's been great. I was walking stiff-kneed on one side because it was just flopping out of place. Now I can bend my knee and walk. I totally recommend this one time, and you'll just go, whoa.
So that's it, the TRT machine, or the Tissue Regenerative Technology machine. I highly recommend you check it out. If you want to go to trtllc.com, like trtlimitedliability.com, you can find out about this. People are calling it the stem cell machine. It's just phenomenal. So you definitely want to give it a try. Give our office a call, 459-9990, 831-459-9990. Good afternoon, Santa Cruz and the whole United States. We are so excited to be here. I've got these two amazing doctors here today with me, and amazing friends. I have all the way from Atlanta, I have Matt DiDuro, and he is a chiropractor extraordinaire out there. And this guy is, because of this guy, Matt DiDuro, we are changing, DiDuro. I'll never get it right, man. And we are changing the healthcare in the whole world. And Matt, I'm gonna have you talk about that in a minute. And then I have a very good friend of mine, Dr. Scott Cramer, all the way up in Redding, California. And he also has jumped on the bandwagon here, and we are actually just, we're so amazed at this new technology called Tissue Regenerative Technology. It's been coined the stem cell machine from the doctors. And, you're going to find out what this thing is all about and how it's actually going to change your life if you actually decide to do something about it. So, Dr. Matt, if you don't mind, why don't you just kind of give an introduction on how you came across this machine in the first place and what you know that it's doing. And we're getting FDA approval on things every day. So if you don't mind, Matt, go ahead and tell us what's up.
Yeah, so, I'm in Woodstock, Georgia is where TRT's headquarters is. It's Tissue Regeneration Technologies. Our CEO is John Warlick. He says hi. I just had lunch with him today. Scott, at his favorite restaurant where you ate. That place. Yeah. And so, my brother-in-law actually wrestled with John in high school, and my wife went to the same school and graduated with them. And through friends that knew that I had a diabetic neuropathy clinic here in Atlanta, one of our friends said, hey, you should check out this technology. I think it will help your diabetic patients. And I said, well, what is it? And they're like, well, it's sound or acoustic waves. I'm like, how is that going to help my diabetic neuropathy patients? So after like a couple of weeks of prodding, I went up and I met John Warlick, and he showed me the device. And let's remember, it's a low-intensity lithotripsy device. So for our listeners out there that don't know what a lithotripsy is, it's actually a device that they use in hospitals to break up kidney stones. So it uses heat, light, and electrohydraulically produced sound waves to penetrate through your body, can go through normal tissue without damaging it, and once it hits that kidney stone, it just pulverizes it. And it's called focus because it can pinpoint where we need it to be. So what we found is that with this low-intensity one, we're actually able to create biological healing. And it was found out really by chance. And so this lower intensity has a unfocused area of about the size of the bottom of a cup. And you don't need anesthetics with it, so you can run it over normal tissue, and there's no pain. But as soon as you hit an abnormal area or discomfort or arthritis, the patient will say, right there. Oh, right, Scott? I mean, you seeing it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's been pretty much what we've, the most amazing thing that I see is patients go, oh, they're right there, and you move off of it, and they go, no, go back, that's where I need it.
I call it the 2 millimeter difference, right? That's what makes you either pinpoint the exact source of pain or you're missing it. And training doctors all over the country, I mean, it's really not just to train them on the proficiency of this device, but it's also how to capture the emotions that happen after, because it's such a transformational type of device. So we may use it, and Scott, perfect example, Shannon Euler up in your clinic, I think it was September 10th, and our first treatment. And Scott, tell a little bit about that. Was it a training day? And,
well, we had a training day where Dr. Matt came out, and I think we had 20 to 25 just patient members come through the office to try this new technology out. And I'll never forget my my associate doctor's wife, Shannon, came through, and she's had chronic low back pain for 25, 26 years. I think she had low back surgery 2 to 3 years ago prior to this, and she's been a chiropractic patient for years with her husband and myself, and the first time, you know, she did the treatment in her office, it kind of freaked me out, Matt, because you were doing a treatment, she was in so much pain, and people were looking like, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I was kind of going, oh my gosh. Anyway, we turned it down, she made it through, and Matt talked her through, and she got up, and she was a little teary-eyed. This is probably, a 40-second treatment maybe, Matt? 30, 40 seconds, if that, and she walks out. I'll never forget, we were treating the people, and she came back in the office smiling, and all of us turn to look at her, and she walks up and gives you a big hug, says, thank you so much. I feel so much better now than I did when I came in this morning. And then I saw her 2 days later in the office, and she's walked down the hallway, just grinning ear to ear. Shannon, how you doing? Because I knew she was in so much pain. Oh, my gosh. For the first time in 20 years, I can feel my leg again. I don't wake up with Charlie horses. It's life-changing. And I was just like, my mouth just dropped open. It was crazy. And if not day forward, I think she's had, 5 or 6 treatments, and she's been perfect ever since. 100%. It's crazy.
It's been it was such a great, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It was such a great emotional story that I had been going through interviews with the show, The Doctors, the nationally syndicated show, The Doctors, and I really pitched it to him as, is this the first stem cell machine? And that caught their eye. They like stem cells is, a big catchphrase now. And, we went through a 3-week audition process, and really what we found out is I sent them the 8 papers from MTS, our parent company in Germany, that does most of the research, and I showed that 6 of these studies were on animals, but we are actually activating our body's own natural resonant stem cells within 45 minutes. So, they not only did I send the research, then they asked, "Can you interpret the research?" So then we gave our interpretations, and then their doctors looked at it, and they nicknamed it what? The stem cell machine.
Stem cell machine.
So, that was huge, and it was groundbreaking for TRT and our company, and just really reaching a national audience. And much like the stem cell market, which has been consumer-driven, as we educate our communities about this, they want it. They don't want drugs. They don't want surgery. They don't want interventional type devices like I'm showing needles here on some of our flyers because, people, we're an alternative to cortisone and injections. We're an alternative. We should be the first step before patients go for stem cells, which are very costly, and we don't know what the effectiveness of it is right now. So, that's one of the things when. And you guys saw it both in your offices. It's like every time I do a training, we get some unbelievable stories. And it's like every week we get what's considered medical miracles in one of our TRT centers of excellence across the country.
I want to chime in here because, there's so much hype about stem cells, and you're absolutely right. And Dr. Scott and I have known each other for well over 10 years, and, we've been involved with probably some of the largest practices in the country chiropractically, and, we've been exposed to a lot of different things. But when we found out what you did, Matt, and, when you introduced me to this, because my shoulder, I couldn't use it, I called Scott immediately, and he bought one himself. And since that time, I think our friends, a group of health centers of the future, have bought close to 20 of these things because it's working so well.
It's 17 or 18, and guys, I want to thank you for trusting in me, because you were the two docs. You were the early adopters, and you believed in me. And there's a lot of people out there. When I tell you how versatile this device is, people, it's almost too good to be true, right? You guys felt it at one point.
Absolutely. Before I came out and saw you in Salt Lake City, or Park City, I should say, Duncan told me about his shoulder and his story. And then, I heard from Dr. Pompa, who I'm sure we'll talk about, and all the miracles we've seen with his family and patients. And I'm like, I came to Park City already, ready to buy one. Remember, I contacted you. I said, Matt, just sign me up. Just sign me up. I'm getting this thing today, right? And
that was great.
Yeah, you're giving me goosebumps, Scott, because that's the same way it was. When I called, Dr. Pompa introduced me to Matt. I called him out in Atlanta, and I said, hey, I need to find one of these. And I had to drive hours to go find one of these machines. My first treatment, I was 40% better. I couldn't even raise my arm, and I'm adjusting 100-plus people a day. It's pretty hard adjusting them all left-handed, as I'm sure as you know. So the second treatment a week later, I was 80% better, and I went, okay, that's it. I'm buying one. But I want to get back to the stem cell mania, because, when we met Dr. Rafael Gonzalez a few months ago, who Dr. Pompa introduced us to, he has a clinic down in Mexico, Cancun, where what they're doing down there is phenomenal and so far advanced compared to what we can do in the United States because of the limitations put on that. And one of the things that, I want to say about this, and then we'll turn it back over to you guys, but, when you're looking at getting stem cells injected, you really want to make sure you know where those stem cells are coming from. Dr. Raphael might get 100 umbilical stem cells from mothers that donate them here in the United States. 75 of them he rejects because there's Epstein-Barr virus in there, or cytomegalovirus, or they have genetic defects and all kinds of certain things. Not only that, but the quality of the stem cells we get here, if they have one stem cell swimming around in there, they call it live. When we go out of the country, we can augment that dramatically. But the point is, even if you were to get those, what the tissue regenerative technology machine does is it focuses and drives any stem cells that you have to the area of that we target. And it's pretty amazing. So I'm going to turn it back over to you guys.
2 points I want to make. First off, thank you again for bringing this technology into your communities. Like, one of the things I said, it helped me. It extended my professional career as a chiropractor. It helped my wrist. It helped your shoulder, Duncan. I mean, Scott, you're pretty close to near perfect. So, but you know what it's like to what you've seen in your practices. And guys our age who've been at this for 25, 20-plus years, 30 years for Dr. Duncan, our bodies wear down. And we need this technology to extend our career. And not only did it transform each of us, but it's also made a really impact in our communities. And so awesome, right, that we offer this, and that we've got 18 of these across the clinic, across the country now. And you make a great point. Pass it off to Scott. Stem cells may be the future for healthcare, but right now they're the future for millionaires and professional athletes, right? Because they're $5,000 to $7,000 a job.
Exactly.
This is a fraction of the cost, and we talk about that $49 special as an introduction for patients to come in and experience this technology and find out if they're a candidate for this.
Yeah. What I like so much is that diagnostic $49 is truly diagnostic, right, Duncan? So we can have you come in and say, perfect example is I have this patient who's had 4 back surgeries, and he is a great chiropractic patient. He's doing incredible. And I said, Richard, this is going to change your life. And I did the diagnostic check on him. And you doctors know you can turn that thing up, but if nothing shows up, it's non-diagnostic. It's not for him. I'm not going to waste his time or money. And it kind of threw me off. So I was thinking this is going to be incredible. It wasn't for him. But so we can use this as such a confidence booster for us and the patient, because we see results not sometimes, but every time. Every time there's something happening positive, whether it's the acute patient. Perfect example is, I don't know if I told you, Duncan and Matt, but my middle daughter, Maddie, during one of the championship volleyball games, came down on another person's ankle and completely tore her anterior talocranial ligament on the ground, crying right in the middle of the game, hauled her off, and, this is playoffs, right? And she's being looked at by colleges. So I bring her home, and, of course, I x-ray her, no fracture. We did an MRI the next day, completely torn. Long story short is we TRT'd her ankle every day for 5 days Her swelling was minimal. It didn't bruise at all. Her pain went away in 3 to 4 days, and she played 8 days later in the game at 100%. At 100%. Incredible technology. And that's just the acute stuff. And so some of the biggest wins I see also are some of the chronic conditions, and some of these take 4 or 5 weeks before they really saturate the stem cell activity coming to the area, and you see these older gentlemen who have major arthritis in their spines, and they talk about feeling their toes again and how their male organs and prostate glands work better after 5-6 weeks. And their wives say, my gosh, finally there's something happening here that's making a difference. I'm not hearing the complaining anymore by old grouchy man. So it's both incredible for acute conditions and chronic, and there's something there for everybody. So I just encourage people to get checked to see if it's a possibility for that individual. So awesome stuff, guys.
It's right, and I've kind of coined it. I mean, we coined it out there, the Star Trek medical device, because it was so futuristic. But really now we have a national campaign that we're talking about, and what if we could detect, locate, and treat within 10 minutes your chronic issues? And that's really what it's about. It's like we're able to help so many people because the treatment time is so short. And Scott, you touched on a perfect point. The first 15 hours is when you have the most amount of reduction of inflammation, swelling, and decrease in pain. Also improve range of motion. But oftentimes with these athletes, we almost have to put them in a boot or brace them because they feel so good they want to do more. But the true effects and healing are 8 to 10 weeks from that point when you have your own stem cells that have been produced and migrated to that treated area. So, I mean, short term, yes, long term. And when I came in to train with your offices back in early September 2019, you said, who do I bring in? And I don't know if you remember, Scott and Duncan, but I said, all your patients that you've had, your practice members for the last 10, 15, 20 years, who you love, who still have chronic conditions that chiropractic hasn't helped. Remember that?
Yep.
And so you put the worst of the worst. I mean, that's who you brought in. It was like, It was so, and that's what this device just boom, boom. And Tomas out in Oregon, his last name is Gagina.
Yep.
He is a medical doctor trained at Cleveland Clinics in Ohio. And when I came out to see him, he was like my 12th or 13th clinic that I had trained and traveled. And I figured out I've been to 9 states and 15 clinics in the last 3 months. And he said, why are you doing this? You're killing yourself. You're all over the place. I'm like, there's a war out there. And I'm on a mission to bring a device to our country and our communities one spine at a time. And that's it. And you guys are helping me on that mission. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to tell a couple stories. And one of them, I got a call, I think a Monday of this week, and 2 sisters had called me, and they might be listening. But 2 sisters called because of hearing me talk about me and I believe you, Matt, talking on the radio before. And they came in for the $49 special. And usually what I offer is I want to do a consultation examination. If I need to, I'll take x-rays. And, they were like, nope, we just want the $49 special. That's what we're here for. I go, okay. So I worked on one of their knees and the other shoulder, and they left. They hadn't heard from them in 6 weeks. And then I got a call from one of them, and she goes, I was in there with my sister, and you worked on us, and you worked on my knee. And my knee, I've had 3 injections or whatever, and, I don't know what you did, but it doesn't hurt anymore. She was almost mad at me. Go, what the heck did you do? And it was really, really cool. So, I just explained a little bit. And let me explain what I say to patients. So we've all had old injuries. We have old ligaments and tendons where the muscles attached to the bone. We've ripped and torn those so many times in our life. And because the body is challenged so much by other activities in life, it kind of forgets about them and walls them off and just leaves them alone. And those become chronic injuries with kind of dried up ligaments and tendons. What the TRT machine does, in my estimation, and we know this to be a fact, when we do TRT over like your shoulder, over where the ligaments attach to a certain part of the joint, we call it a tuberosity, it's bringing new blood cell growth, they call it angiogenesis. We're actually sprouting new blood vessels into this old dried up injury. And it's also bringing stem cells from your long bone into the area that we're reminding it, hey, there's a new injury here, even though it isn't. But rather than being lost lost and forgotten because of the emergencies in the world, it's able to put attention on that spot. And when we do 3 to 5 to that area, we just keep layering them on again and again and again. And the next thing we know, the body's rebuilding itself there. And to me, it's unbelievable, a complete miracle. And thanks so much, Matt, for bringing it to us.
Incredible.
Well, you said it perfectly. I mean, it's tricking the body into thinking there's a new injury. Our body, the way it's set up physiologically, it's set up for acute injuries. Yeah, you sprain your ankle, you increase blood into that area, tries to brace it off and stop, immobilize it. But, this goes in there, and after, like you said, after 10, 12 weeks, the body shuts down. So that's what's so wild and transformational with these chronic injuries. Dr. Tomas, to get back to his beautiful clinic in Silverton, Oregon, so we go in, and he said that to me, and so we're doing a training day, and he brings this young lady in Chelsea who is 39. You can tell she's just a beautiful woman, and she has 2 children. And she comes in, I said, Chelsea, what's your story? Why are you here? And she says, well, the doctor said I needed to see you today. And I said, okay. So she tells me her story. She had scoliosis at age 10. She was put Harrington rods in her spine, in her thoracic to lumbar spine, when she was 14. So for the last 25 years, she's lived with loss of range of motion, pain, constant discomfort, and we did one treatment, about 500 shockwaves on her sacral lumbar plexus, and then we did about another 800 going up and down her spine, right where the rods were, right where the screws and metal things are held in there. And she was sore, she was tender, and you know how I am, Scott. I'm like, the more discomfort they have, the better outcome. So we get off the table, and I go, okay, Tomas, get your camera, get ready, right? She starts walking down the hallway. She comes back. She starts crying, right? She's just like, what just happened? I don't have any pain. She goes, I feel lighter. I feel full of light. I mean, so we're all crying, and then we had to compose ourselves, and then we interviewed her, and it's just, I can't wait. It's getting that type of recognition that Shannon Euler had as well. But it's 25 years, and now 3 weeks after her first treatment, she's skiing with her family.
Incredible.
So
yeah.
That's so amazing.
Matt,
and I got to tell you, the one problem with this whole thing is that my cost on tissue's gone up quite a bit. I mean, we get people crying in our office. Our whole staff cries. There was an elderly woman who came in. Her husband bought her one of these things, a $49 special, and she could barely walk. Her hip, I took an X-ray, it was bone on bone. I mean, I've seen these bone on bone things that they get surgeries for, and in the past there was really not a lot I could tell them. And of course we would work on the nervous system, their low back and this and that, and try to get them healthy. But now we know 300 TRT shock treatments on her low back, then work right on the hip. And this woman, when she got off the table, she walked up front and she was basically crying. And I actually did a Facebook Live on her. Anybody wants to go to Dr. Duncan McCollum, DC, and or I'm sure Dr. Scott and Dr. Matt, you can tell us your place. But we just see, I post win after win after win. Unbelievable. There was not a dry eye in the house when she started crying, saying I can walk pain-free with one treatment. Unbelievable.
To add to both your guys' points, those really degenerated joints, right, Matt, those hips, those knees. We've had so many people with knees, whether they're post-surgery or bone-on-bone, scheduled for surgery or injections, like you say, and literally these people can hardly sit on the table and have a treatment, and they jump off and go, oh, my gosh, it's like I have lubrication and oil in my knee again. I can walk in there, like walk around the office, whooping it up, and we're videoing and going, oh, this is crazy. After just 300 or 400 shockwaves, it's crazy. And also, don't forget, maybe, Matt, you can touch on how important it is to check on the extremities, the feet and the hands, right? And so perfect example is, people ask about maintenance or how many people have neuropathy and feet problems. And don't forget, 70% of our balance goes from our feet. And when you activate these receptors in the feet, amazing things happen, not just in the feet, but all over the entire body for a lot of reasons. And one story I have to tell you about is actually a friend of ours. She was in the military years ago, and she had 2 surgeries for neuromas on her fourth toe, and her 5th and 3rd toes were literally crossed over like this for years, where she couldn't wear high heels, and she's short, so she wanted to wear high heels a lot, right? She couldn't dance. She couldn't walk around. Just chronic pain. She's had 3 or 4 injections in there in the past 10 years. I think we did 500 or 600 shockwaves on the bottom of her feet the first time, and her feet immediately opened up. She can splay her feet. She could feel the ground. And to this day, it's 100%. It's just miraculous. She was crying. We were crying. It's just like, are you kidding me? So the use of this technology are just endless, I should say.
I just want to jump into our audience. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum on Stepping In, and I have Dr. Matt DiDuro from, did I say it right?
DiDuro from Atlanta, Georgia.
DiDuro from Atlanta, Georgia.
Your friend, the Paisan from New York.
Exactly, and Dr. Scott Cramer from up in Reading. And we are talking about this amazing new machine called the Tissue Regenerative Therapy machine. It's been coined the stem cell machine by the doctors, the TV show The Doctors. And you might be listening to us going, what the heck are these guys so excited about? And why? What are we saying? We're saying this amazing miracle machine can cure everything from a toothache to, tonsillitis. Well, I want you to know that come check it out. Dr. Scott is up in Reading. Dr. DiDuro is out there in Atlanta, and I'm here in Santa Cruz. And I'll tell you, we've got some people. You just check in. We'll find people for you. But this machine is we need it, and you need it. And I'm so glad you're listening. Don't be shy. Call my office 831-459-9990 in the Santa Cruz area. I have people coming from 3 hours away now. And Scott, you can talk about where you're at, and as you, Matt, too, because people need this stuff. It's not something that we want to withhold. We want to share it. My machine's going almost full time. It's it's unbelievable how many people want this. So again, Scott and Matt, why don't you tell us where you guys are at and how people find you?
Yeah, I'm in Redding, California. Phone number 530-5270-220, CramerFamilyChiro.com. You can find us there. And I'm like you, Duncan. I told Dr. Matt I'm out to get a second machine soon, and maybe just have one of my doctors or techs go to different offices to help people, because there's so many people that need help. So many people that are missing out or not knowing. And literally, once people try it and we see a result, which we usually always do 99% of the time, or we don't do it on them, right, guys? And it's just miraculous,
And guys, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, obviously, and we have providers all across the country with this device. I mean, you can go to softwaveproviders.com and find a treatment center close to you. In Atlanta, I am the clinic director of ATL Pain Institute. It's a research center, and also I'm the research director there and clinic director for HealthMed, which is our clinics here in Atlanta. I also have a podcast that's Free My Pain Now. So, every week we're talking about different great wins like what we're hearing today. It's really dedicated to providers and patients who want to become their own healthcare advocates. And, I do think, we have to look at the history of the lithotripsy device that broke up kidney stones for the last 40 years. There's an 85% success rate with that, and those are focused. And people have to be put under with anesthetics, and they're able to pinpoint where that kidney stone is. Ours is a little different, right? We've only had this for about 9-10 years. It is unfocused, so it treats more area. And I don't want to say it cures anything. I just think it helps really accelerate the body's natural healing ability. And that's why it pairs so well with chiropractic. Because, 97% of the time, back pain comes from a mechanical stress to your joints. So just like I'm doing this to my index finger, same things happen with our spine, either in our cervicals and our neck or low back. So not only does this help us detect, locate, and actually make a diagnosis within 10, 12 minutes, but then we can switch the power down to a healing mode and actually focus that energy to really create that biological cascade of healing. And it works on a cellular level. What do you mean by that? Well, there's a shearing force that happens. And this is like taking a thunderbolt and lightning and put it into an applicator head. And so you have the thunder and the light, but really it's the shock. It's the tensile force of this device that creates a shearing force across the cell membrane walls. And you get rid of those oxidative stresses, and you're allowed exosomes and nutrients to get in and out, and waste products out of the body or the cell. So it's working on a cellular level, and it's also communicating, right? As it activates those resident stem cells, I like to tell my patients, it's like the bees in a beehive are just waiting to be called out into to work. And if you poke that beehive, all those bees will swarm and get you, right? So this is what this does. It almost like it pokes that tissue and brings these stem cells that are laying dormant into an active state. And then they call for all these other helper cells, and you get cytokines, interleukin 10, interleukin 6, that help really prohibit inflammation, stops the inflammation process. And then, like you said, Dr. Duncan, 10 to 12 weeks later, you've got neovascularization, really new blood pathways.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And, for those of you out there, stem cells, you may or may not have heard of them. Basically a stem cell can become any part of any cell in your body. So when, an egg and sperm comes together, that's a stem cell. You have one cell, and then in 9 months, right now, us sitting here, we're about 100 trillion cells. And we do know that we've got 10 times that much bacteria, microbiome around us. But our own stem cells, which are lying dormant in our body, they are going to be recruited. And one way it was explained to me, which I really like, is when you do scratch or impact a cell, that, like if I were to scrape my elbow, I would get kind of a stickiness on that scrape. That is something emitted from the actual individual cells, and that is what we call an RNA messenger. You probably heard of RNA. It's a messenger that goes to the brain that tells the brain it's a new injury. That stimulates and starts this whole engine up to pull the stem cells, and they're all, hanging out in different parts of your body, and it's like a fire, it's like a huge fire. Okay, all the engines are called from around town, and they're all going to go emerge on that one spot and heal it. And it's pretty amazing. Now, I do want to say that this is not a magic bullet as much as we're saying it is, because, what Dr. Scott and I and Dr. Matt do is we want to make sure that your body is healthy. You can't, as Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about the cell wall and how important it is that the cell wall is, our cells are surrounded by healthy material. He says you take a cell and you put it in a toxic environment, it's going to start to die. You take that same cell and put it in a healthy environment, it's going to start to thrive. So we can help you with your immediate problems with this thing. Most of the time, like Dr. Scott said, 99% of the time we get pretty much results right away. But you have to be to a point in your life as well, beyond just getting out of pain. It's going, I want to change my life. I want to get my vitality back. I want to enjoy the next 30, 40 years. So I just want to let all of you out there know that when you talk to Dr. Matt or Dr. Scott or myself, we're going to help you with your immediate situation, but we also want to set you up so that you can actually enjoy the next 20, 30, 40 years in your life without this thing getting worse and worse. Drugs can get you out of pain, but if you don't find the underlying cause, you're actually setting yourself up for, a very miserable future. So I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Great points, Duncan. One of the things I say is this may be the most versatile device that we've seen in the last 25 years with the least amount of side effects. So we see it in urology. They're using it for erectile dysfunction and Peyronie's disease. We're seeing it in orthopedics where they're helping non-healing fractures start the healing process again. In cardiology, they have it for using it over the heart. So they have a cardiac regeneration technology. Dr. Thomas Liu out of University of California, San Francisco, right up the bay from you, he has an organ regeneration lab. Okay, guys? He is working on, next level. He's like the Elon Musk of all of us in this field. He is that bad. And he's pumping out 17 to 18 papers a year with his group. I mean, just amazing stuff. So he's looking at how the body can actually regenerate parts of organs with this technology. So, I had lunch with John Warlick today, and what's the future? I mean, you said it early. We just, in December of 2019, we got FDA clearance, Class 2, to work on wounds and diabetic ulcers. So what does that mean? There's over 500,000 amputations per year. You've heard of the salami surgery. They just they whop it off. If you get a wound or an ulcer or, God forbid, necrosis, death of tissue that turns into gangrene, you have to cut off that part to save the rest of the body. And so 500,000 people per year. We were just halfway through a pilot study with a wound clinic here in Smyrna, Georgia. I mean, phenomenal. They gave us 11 of their worst patients that all were due for some type of amputation. And I can't wait for you guys to see these pre and post. It's amazing. Yeah. And it's going to be, Medicare, right now, insurances are not covering this, right? So we try, that's why it's a fraction of the cost of stem cells, and you can get 6 to 8 sessions for that fraction of the cost. So this is a working man's option. This is a blue-collar option to actually help activate your body's own natural stem cell production. And, where do we see this? Medicare, within this year, will have ICD codes and we'll be able to bill for these wounds. Now, obviously you have to have a nurse or medical doctor or see one of those, but we're hoping not to just change a few people from getting amputations, but literally thousands. And every year it will it will grow more and more.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome news. Matt, I want to thank you not just for bringing this to us, but Dr. Matt Duncan introduced me to the whole neuropathy field, which we have seen lots of times, and especially in chiropractic, it's like an epidemic now, from diabetic neuropathy, chemotherapy-induced neuropathy, and then just people who are really sick neuropathy. But I have to tell you, this TRT, we use, chiropractic as a perfect example, is we don't do the healing the body does, and people always want to feel better, but with TRT and chiropractic, it literally helps the body heal better and heal like it never has before. And so, I can confidently say that thanks to Dr. Matt, when we start seeing neuropathy people, and you look online on our Facebook and the website, and even on the TRT website, every case you'll see these poor people they can't feel the ground. Their feet are purple. They have no circulation. I saw a guy the other day, his calves are literally so swollen, they're oozing fluid just sitting there. And he's just so sick and unhealthy. And now there's hope for this person. There's hope for these people that they can literally start this whole cellular regeneration process. And granted, they need other care also, like Duncan talked about, as far as true cellular detox and overall health coaching that we supply these patients also. But it's such an additive adjunct to our practice that it's hard not to be so excited about it. So thank you so much, Matt.
I want to tell you guys about one of my patients. He's been a patient for years, and he's a diabetic. And so we started working with him on his feet. And, he's done a few Facebook Lives. So if you go to McCollum, Dr. Duncan McCollum, DC, you can find him. And, basically the last time he talked, and there were a lot of these, he said, you know what? Not only can I walk without my shoes and socks on for the first time in years, because every time I tried to walk on anything, it was like walking on broken glass. It was that bad. Now I can walk barefoot out to my hot tub, get into the hot tub, and walk back. But the most, but also, he couldn't even move his toes. They were just like so swollen, he couldn't move them. He goes, now I can wiggle my toes like my hands. That sounds kind of silly to us people, but to those poor people that have been suffering with no results. Now, remember one thing. Angiogenesis is new blood vessel growth. And with diabetics, the blood vessels are getting clogged at the very tiny ends in the capillaries at the ends of the extremities. So what we're doing, not only are we reducing inflammation in this, but we're also helping the body start to create new blood vessel growth, which brings oxygen to those tips of the toes and stuff so that they don't get gangrene and they don't need to be lopped off like that they're doing. And it's amazing that we have this opportunity.
You're right. Neuropathy's been so dear to my heart the last 11 years. I'm past president of Neuropathy Treatment Centers of America, and I was interviewed just the other day when I was out in Denver by the group Chiro Hustle. I don't know if you guys heard of them. They're the #1 podcast in chiropractic. Amazing. Jim Chester and Luke Millette. They're just lay people, but they love chiropractic, and they were voted by Entrepreneurial Magazine as the top 20 influential podcasts in the country. So I gave a shout out to both of you guys, so you better listen to the edition when it comes out. But, they said to me, where do you see chiropractic in the next 20 years? And I said, listen, we need more. I think we need more people, more chiropractors to embrace this around the country, because it gives almost like, I'm going to say this, superhero healing powers.
Yep.
I'm not kidding you, because we can work on the joint dysfunctions. We can remove those. We can help. Bone on bone is not bone on bone. That's an X-ray, a 2-dimensional X-ray that we can't capture a 3-dimensional body. So I love when people say bone on bone, because I know we're going to reduce inflammation, reduce pain, and improve range of motion. So, these are the things that we're looking for, and 33% of our population are diabetic, type 2, type 1. And by 2025, they expect that number to be even more increased. And the new research shows that 100% of those diabetics will develop some type of diabetic nerve pain in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So we are positioned very well. The other thing I want to make a note of out there to your listeners, statins or cholesterol-lowering medications. 72% of our patients who come in our clinics are type 2 diabetics. 44% have been on statin drugs for more than 6 months.
Yep.
Statins are an anti-angiogenic drug. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So they stop the formation of blood pathways. You know, I will work with their cardiologist or prescribing physician and say, listen, they can't do our program if they're on these statins. And we have a research project overview study that we're looking at, we're doing with Georgia Tech right now. And the statin, the normal improvement is 20%. The people that are on statins are only at 12% improvement sensory nerves. The people that got off the statins are like 58% improved with our technologies. And I've patented the use of our device and the low-level light therapies to treat those chemo, diabetic, and peripheral neuropathy.
And I might say it works very, very well. You know, I think every patient we've had in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Judy comes to mind. She came in the other day with tears in her eyes saying, I don't know what you did last week, Dr. Cramer, but it's the first time I've woken up with no pain in probably 30 years. 30 years. And it's just, you just feel so sorry for these people that don't know there's hope out there for them. And another thing also is that we work with the doctors who these patients see, so they can't have other alternatives to statin drugs or other alternatives, some of their heavy doses of diabetic drugs, because those will also influence blood supply to those capillaries and shut those off also.
You know, one thing that's really interesting is I'll just jump in here. I have to switch back and forth when I'm going to talk. But, you know, what's really important to know, too, is we now know the studies are showing, and they're coming out, that when you take chronic, anti-inflammatories or any of these medications, antacids, cholesterol medications, they're all linked to Alzheimer's disease now. So the more and more drugs that we get, exposed to as people to cover up a symptom and never go upstream to the actual cause of the problem, we're actually, look, we've got more medication than any country in the world, but we're still rated 47th in the world for health. We take more drugs we take 50% of all the meds. We're only 4% of the world population. We're rated 47th, and that's never changed. It's like, if you started to get people well, you're losing your clientele. That doesn't make sense to a big money marketing business. So we've really got to, understand that in our patients, please come in and take advantage of the $49 special. But if you're interested, say, what else can I do to help make sure that my future days, I'll be able to play with my grandkids and actually remember their names?
Great point. I tell my staff every day. Some patients come in, they're in pain, they're grouchy, they're suffering. You have to have a specific segment of your staff that understands that and has empathy. And it's so fun to watch them transition from these painful states, and as this look of anguish melts away from their face. Scott, you said something that's really key. When they start sleeping, their nerves are healing. Yeah. And that's really cool. Like most of these patients, it's like Chinese water torture. The pain is worse when at the evenings, when they go sit down and, they've been busy all day, their mind's on other things. And as soon as they go sit, that's when it really starts. It's a 24/7 thing, and it can be very debilitating. Yeah. So like you said, 75% of all medications produced in the world are consumed by the United States, 4%. 80% of hydrocodones produced in the world are consumed by the United States. 90% of OxyContins produced in the world are consumed by the United States. And we're 4% of the population. Do we work that much harder that we need this? Do you know there's only 2 countries in the world that allow prescription drug ads? That's New Zealand and the United States, both of which have the highest healthcare costs in the world. Our communities are sick. We need more doctors like Health Centers of the Future doctors like you guys to be out there and really being an oasis for these patients that are looking and searching for an answer.
It's so amazing. And I just want to, again, let our listeners know who we are. I'm Dr. Duncan McCollum, chiropractor in Capitola. I've been there for 30 years, right across from, from the Macy's Shopping Center. Anyway, you can find me at McCollum Family Chiropractic, 831-459-9990. And just call and say, I want that $49, whatever the heck that machine is. It's supposed to be cool. And it will either work for you or not. And if we don't think it will, we're going to tell you you're not a candidate. Please go see. We'll try to refer you to a different doctor. Scott, why don't you tell us who you are and then Dr. Matt?
Yeah, thanks, Duncan. This is Dr. Scott Cramer. We actually have two offices, one in Redding, California, one in Red Bluff, California. It's CramerFamilyChiro.com, 530-527-0220. And like I said, or like Duncan said, we have people calling us from all over California, 3-4 hours away, even from Southern Oregon, with questions, interest about TRT because they hear about it. So it's catching on. I hope more and more doctors catch on to this and bring it to their offices as well. So go ahead, Matt.
Last but not least, I would say after traveling to 17 different clinics across 9 states, I have to say that both of your offices are two of the top ones I've seen in the country. Doc's been there. Dr. McCollum's been in Capitola for over 30 years. He's just got a wonderful tribe of great people looking for healing in a natural way. Dr. Scott, those 2 clinics and what you're doing, I mean, you and your wife Liz are just helping so many people up there. I'm humbled by everyone that's kind of on board. I felt like, I'm like, what a Peloton is?
Yeah.
When you're biking, right? I felt like I was this lone wolf in this Peloton pack, and I was, for the last 2 years I've been biking uphill, and you guys have come on, and then we've had another few, and now we've got more people, and we're actually able to be more efficient and get our message out there in the communities and across the country. And I'm so thankful that you guys are part of this trip with us, and I couldn't ask for 2 better doctors to be our ambassadors out there. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Free My Pain Now is our podcast. You can go to freemypainnow.com, ask questions, find a provider near you, and that's what it's all about. We've had people flying down from D.C., Baltimore, driving from Nashville, Tennessee, from northern Florida, and I don't want that. I don't want patients. I want convenience. I want these patients who want this technology. Help us find doctors in your area, because your communities need this as well.
Yeah, what I want to do, and we've got about 5 minutes left, and I'm going to just start out telling another one of my favorite stories, and then we each can. But I had this gentleman who was attending my cellular healing lifestyle clinic class. I have a 7-week class where we go over the intermittent fasting ketogenic diet, and we take people in through a 5-day water fast. This is a thing put by Dr. Pompa, who's the guy that introduced all of us. But this gentleman was a Vietnam vet. He's about 72 years old, and halfway through the class, he would painfully get up, just painstakingly. He could barely move. He'd get up and stand against the wall, back and forth, back and forth. So finally, I was able to have him come in. We did some evaluations. He'd had surgery on his low back 2 years ago after another 3 years of severe pain. The surgery did not help at all. The scar was about 4 to 5 inches long and very red on his back. So I did my first TRT treatment, the first tissue regenerative therapy stem cell treatment on him. He got off, it was hard for him to get off the table. He got off the table, and he said so many F-bomb words that you could not believe. He was going, what did you do? He was walking, and he was out of pain. And then the next week he comes back and goes, well, I can't lift my knees up behind me. And he literally couldn't lift his foot more than 1.5 inches behind him and so he would shuffle. So I did one knee, had him get up, and he could bend it normally, and more F-bombs. And then we did the next knee. And this guy's, it's changed his life. He and his wife go walking along West Cliff, and usually his wife would, go a mile or so, turn around, and then this guy would be, sitting on a bench about 20 feet from the car. She turned around, and there he was, and she goes, well, what did you do? Did you drive the car up here? And he goes, no, I'm walking. This is absolute 100% true. So I'm going to turn it over for you guys, because this is so amazing and so much. I cry when I see this stuff. It's just so fun.
After doing this, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead. Actually, there you go.
Go.
After doing this for, 5 or 6, 7, 8, 10 months, whatever it's been, those kind of results just seem like, okay, well, we expect that almost. And if we don't, we kind of think something's wrong, So from the knees to the ankles to that kind of person. Matt, you touched on Harrington rods in someone's spine. And I find people who've had, hip replacement surgery or knee replacement surgery, a lot of times the reaction with just the surgery and the metal and the bone and the toxic overload, when you do TRT in these people, it's almost like it just clears that whole area out. Great stem cells come there, anti-inflammatory, and they stand and go, wow, that's the first time in 2, 3, 4 years I can put weight on that knee or hip, and it doesn't hurt. And it's crazy how it lasts. One other story I want to touch on is a patient of mine, and I think we saw her. Do you remember Newton, Matt, when the one with tremors who you saw when he first came in the office?
He had the cool flip-flops.
Yeah, and he still wears flip-flops in the winter. But anyway, his wife, who does yoga and massage, she came in, and we were working on her hands, and she came in her first treatment, and she had been bitten by a black widow spider on the front of her wrist, just up from her wrist. And it was literally probably an inch high and 2 inches around, this hole with pus coming out of it. And, I'm not trained on doing open sores or wounds, so I didn't do anything over the wound. I just did her wrist over the carpal tunnel area and just above that, maybe an inch on the soft tissue of her forearm. Within one treatment, she came back 3 days later, and it was halfway down. I did it again. 2 days later, it was almost gone. It looked like an old cigarette butt, burn there. So for infection, when it brings these cytokines and anti-inflammatories and exosomes, stem cells, it truly is healing to that area. And I'm sure, I can't wait to see the results of the diabetic sore and wound you're doing with the technology. So we look forward to hearing about that and having more and more success stories.
Yeah, this is what the technology looks like. That's the applicator. And it's awesome.
Hey, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum. Thanks a lot for tuning in. You've heard me talk about this amazing new machine called the TRT machine, or the Tissue Regenerative Technology machine. We've had such amazing results, and I really want you to experience it. So I'm still offering the $49 special. I'm going to play a little snip from my friend and patient, Noel. He's talked before. He's a diabetic patient, and let's just listen to what he has to say about his treatment with the TRT machine.
You don't realize how much you use your toes for balance until there's no feeling in them. And so I've got the feeling back in my toes, and my balance is greatly improved. Definitely recommend it.
So that's it, the TRT machine, or the Tissue Regenerative Technology machine. I highly recommend you check it out. If you want to go to trtllc.com, like trtlimitedliability.com, you can find out about this. People are calling it the stem cell machine. It's just phenomenal. So you definitely want to give it a try. Give our office a call, 459-9990, 831-459-9990.
Duncan, we have, a minute or two left?
Yeah, we got 1 minute and 30 seconds.
I'm going to use 1 minute and 25 seconds. Okay, so, I want to give a shout out to one of the top plastic surgeons in the country, John D. Mullins, here in Atlanta at Piedmont Hospital. Some of the work he's doing, he's going to be our keynote speaker at our national symposium that we're going to be setting up in the fall. It's going to be set up in the spring, and we'll be giving your dates very soon for our providers. But, he's working with left ventricular assist device, these patients who have a heart pump, and they either die because they don't get a heart transplant or they get an infection. And he's 4 for 4 for working on that internal lead going into the left ventricle. Amazing stuff. You check it out at our website, and we're gonna be featuring him. He was just on our podcast, Free My Pain Now, episode 25. So he's very, very world-renowned, awesome guy. And thank you guys again for giving us a chance to share this technology. Dr. Duncan, wrap it up.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much. We'll do this again. This has been really fun, and it's just so exciting just to be with you guys, and just to know that we are actually changing the world one spine at a time with this stem cell machine. And, this is fantastic. So Dr. Scott Cramer in Reading, Dr. Matt DiDuro in Atlanta, Georgia, and Dr. Duncan McCollum here in Capitola. And we're here to help you guys.